How you doing? It's time for another Chris's Comments show, discussing common sense on common ground, no matter what the subject. Now, this is another border thing. We got people out there saying that there's a border crisis. I have to say it's more border concerns, not crisis. Okay, and what I'm talking about is a lot of people out there that are claiming that there's a bunch of crisis, but they're not really doing anything to prevent it, stop it, or just ease the symptoms. Instead, what they're doing is claiming that there's a bunch of human trafficking going on. Well, technically, there are more attempts because the media lately has been posting a lot of thwarted attempts in trafficking. You had people speeding through these towns, trying to zip through, trying to sneak all these people in. You got people with loaded trucks and all this stuff, some with breathing holes now, as opposed to the kind like a couple of years back where a total of 200 migrants died in the back of a truck because there was no breathing. There was no way to breathe for air. The air, they suffocated, and they cooked. Technically, they baked in the trailer. That was just a couple of years back, and so you've got a bunch of them being predicted right now. They're actually very clear. It's very obvious that there's some trafficking going on, that it's enhanced, and the law is currently knocking them down. They're knocking them down. I don't understand how everybody's crying and complaining that there's a crisis and all this stuff when the law is actually knocking them down. So technically it's a concern, not so much a crisis. And the border concerns really need to be focused on by people who are actually doing something, as opposed to all the crap that you're hearing. As opposed to all the stuff that's being spewed out of their mouths by the critics. Now, the one thing that I really, really, really want to emphasize on, and because I've brought this up many of times, where abuses, even sometimes sexual violations, being committed on these migrants. It's a huge concern this year because most of them are children under the age of 18, at most 17, as young as 6 years old. But it's an average of 9 to 17 years of age. And it's again a concern because there have been reported cases of adult faculty staff members committing these crimes. And it's very concerning to me that right now, for some reason, critics are claiming that they're being put in cages, and the leaked videos that they're showing prove it. Well, take a good look at that video again. You're looking at orderly people. You're looking at these kids that are moving in orderly fashions from one area testing to another area and holding. And it's those holding cells that I want to point out. These are plastic sheets. You could see through them. Plastic sheets being stapled to a wooden frame that's anchored into the concrete, and rightly so. That's how you set up the frame. You anchor it into the ground, you make your frame, and then you attach your wall. Now the wall are these wide sheets of see-through plastic. Okay, that's a huge difference from the cyclone fencing that was being used during the previous administration. Those were cages. These are holding cells. And it's proof by the very same people who are leaking the videos right now. So this, and then to top it all off, more holding facilities are actually being built while we speak, as opposed to the past with the previous administration, where places were just fenced off. There was a couple of pictures shown where people were stuck in El Paso underneath highway bridges, and they were encaged underneath one of those bridges, and it happened right when a storm was hitting. You know, they were stuck there when we had a storm, and I can't remember what the name of the storm was. And then you had other facilities where, again, they were just caged in. And then, of course, with the extreme cold from the AC, no moderation, foil sheets, as opposed to now where human and health services are actually making bunk beds, as well as, you know, giving the migrants blankets. So, you know, more and more of these holding facilities are actually being developed, as opposed to what is being spewed out of the haters' mouth, the critics' mouths, that are saying that they're cages. Well, no, they're not cages. The cages that were originally made in the BP facilities were in Donald Trump's, the previous president's administration, under his watch. The cages weren't there with Obama. They were holding facilities. The cages weren't there with Biden. They're holding facilities. Huge difference between the two. Now, that being said, the reason for this border concerns, not crisis comment, which is what's going to be taught, it is also going to be shadowed by the copycat shooters. You know they're out there. You know somebody's contemplating it. Somebody's thinking about it all the time. Every year, there's somebody that wants to bust up a place with some bullets, but putting a cap in it. And honestly, you know, it goes from a domestic fight to guys being tough guys, straight on out to some nut bar with a combative weapon, maybe even a bomb from time to time. You know, one time it went straight to a Capitol Hill, to a Capitol building. The thing is that still has to be pointed out, because it still has to be something that we got to look out for. You know somebody's wanting to do this. You know somebody's wanting to take a couple of shots at a place where it's going to be more than likely beneficial. Granted, the massage parlors may not have been a critical employment, you know, but it was a place that was, you know, of service to people. And this guy just went nuts on those people, which is just not cool. Again, if you have something to say about the sex addiction, sex criminality that's going on at a massage parlor, you report it to the authorities. You report it to the freaking FBI, you know? Report it to CIA, an internal affair. You know, report it to INS. Just report it to all divisions. Report it to all departments. Handling it with a gun is just downright stupid, you know? Because of the simple fact, I mean, we know, because of the simple fact that it doesn't get anything done. The gunman's just looked at as some nut bar. And more than likely, nothing's being handled. And now here we are with this border concerns being labeled a crisis, which, you know, somebody's going to lash out somewhere. Now here in San Antonio, I can honestly say this, I can make this prediction, because we are a sanctuary city. They're not being taken to Lackland Air Force Base, not like the ones with actual coronavirus when Trump was around. he had people coming out of cruise ships and placing them here in my town in Lackland Air Force Base amongst all the soldiers and cadets. Why? I have no clue. Now here we are with these children, possible maybe carriers, but seeing as how they made it all the way across an entire country, being Mexico, from Honduras and from Guatemala, seeing as how they made it all the way from those countries across Mexico into the States, I give it a 50-50 chance of being a carrier. But let's say that they're being taken here to the U.S. in sanctuary cities like San Antonio, and the first thing that they're doing is being tested. And if they don't pass, they're being quarantined. They're being quarantined as they're being shipped from the border to this city, where they're already being tested over there. They come over here, they get into San Antonio, they're getting tested, and then they're being quarantined in accordance to where they're supposed to be. Now, are they being taken to a military base like the way the coronavirus carriers were in 2019, early 2020? No. Technically, they're being taken to an arena, Coliseum. And the Coliseum has got a bunch of other shelters and buildings that was originally for stuff like the RV show, the car show, a gardening event, or even a wedding event, where everybody from napkins all the way up to the actual wedding dresses and tuxedos were advertising, having their convention. That's where the current migrants are being sent to, at least as far as here in San Antonio goes. There are other cities, and they're being developed and stuff like that, just no differently than as proclaimed once the HHS stepped in. We also have a couple of churches that are accepting volunteers as well as donations, which is standard, which is very good. So the thing is, there's going to be some douchebag hater with a combative weapon to top it all off, that's going to try to take a couple of shots at this. Now, at the Coliseum, that's going to be a little bit more complicated. The Coliseum is placed in a county where it's surrounded by warehouses. I think a soda distribution is over there also on one side. And then you've got some more factories on another side. And then behind it, you have the ghetto. It's a little bit poorer district, and it's got a few cliques there where if a hater goes up to shoot at the back of the vicinity of where the Coliseum is, he's gonna have a little bit harder of a time doing that when he's got a clique with their own guns ready to shoot at him. So the best way for that gunman to go into is to go straight into the front. Unfortunately, he's got to go past the parking lot and then the gate that lets you into those back buildings, because again, the buildings in the back are meant more for events and stuff. However, they're also held for the people, the event holders, like the rodeo. They're transformed into stables, places where you just don't want the general public walking back there, So, I got faith here in San Antonio that at the Coliseum, the migrants won't be harmed unless it's by an adult faculty member. Like I said, 4,500 plus cases of violated migrants all the way down to children. And a large portion of that was done by the adult faculty members that were actually there. So we got to be able to stay on top of this. We got to keep having those reporters going back there to make sure that nothing like that happens ever again the way it did between the years 2014 and 2018. Now, the part where I see a problem, and I'm really, really hoping that whoever sees this also does their part in spreading the word. The charity functions. You know, you have a home base, and that could be making you a target, you know, by some hater, by some person of hate, for whatever reason he deems it necessary to point a gun at you. Stay alert, be vigilant. The holding cells are being developed, holding facilities with proper environmental control, beds, covers, they're all being developed anyway. So it only makes sense to just be cautious on your end, okay? Because in the end, it still borders down to crisis, no crisis, whatever. These are still children that we're talking about, and they shouldn't be shut out. They've already had cases of cartel and gangs kidnapping, abducting people as well as children south of the border during the time that Trump was, you know, building the wall and keeping them out, claiming that the abductors were coming in, that the child rapists and the drug dealers were coming in, so form a wall and keep everybody out. What the repercussions of that, instead of securing the border, to make sure that that kind of activity doesn't happen, what he did was close off the border, and that stuff still wound up happening. And it's just messed up. Some people don't see that. Some people actually rationalized, well, it wasn't done on U.S. soil, so therefore it's not our problem. That's not an excuse, and that makes you just as disgusting as the asshole that, as the jerk that put up the wall and agreed to shut everybody out. That makes you just as disgusting if you actually see things this way, to as disgusting as the cartels and the gangsters who actually participated in. If you say it's not our problem if it's not on American soil, well then you're actually participating, if not supporting, the abductions and the kidnappings of those children by the cartels and the gangsters and and any other criminal that's there. It's just plain and simple fact. Now, there's another segment that I wanted to do that included Myanmar over there on the southeast. I'm gonna have to do another. I'm running low on time, so I'm gonna have to do it at another time. It's just important that something's resolved over there as well, because of the military takeover that was done. And the reason why I bring that up is because the military coup d'etat was actually formed due to Donald Trump's closing the trade. And there's a lot to it than that, and I'll get to that with the next video. But the closing off the trade, closing off borders, closing off our borders, with Central and with the rest of America's. No, we're up to the north, obviously, but let's not get into that again. It's just, it's not a crisis. It's border concerns. And the concerns so far are being met very well with holding facilities that are not cages, with the housing, the holding housing, temporary housings that are made up to par with along the lines of housing. And for all those, especially now that I'm in my last 5 minutes, for all those that are saying, well, what about the veterans? Okay, many of the people that have been complaining about that haven't been doing haven't been doing a damn thing for the veterans. They keep crying about that every time somebody does something for somebody else. A disaster takes place. Some neighborhoods got taken out by wildfires. The critics say, well, what about the homeless vets? Some tornado ravaged through a town. Well, what about the homeless vets? Farmings are messed up. Well, what about the homeless vets? Migrants are coming here. What about the homeless vets? Minors are being abandoned and stuck there on the border. Well, what about the homeless vets? It's the same song and dance from the people of hate who are not doing anything for the homeless, not even for the homeless vets. The one thing that they complain about the most. So to hell with them. To hell with any critics, to hell with any doubters, to hell with people that are trying to get you to look any other way. Keep an eye out, be vigilant. Notice anything that looks like it fits into a rifle casing. Take notice of any of that. The guy in Colorado actually walked right up to the store while some people were actually leaving. They were just leaving. And some were a little baffled by it. Others just didn't get it because they're too busy with their own world, and nobody can blame them for that. You got a busy life. You got a busy schedule. You got stuff to do. You got places to be and people to see. Totally understandable. Now, however, you might want to be a little bit more observant around, as people like me am going to, as the many of us who I'm sure have already thought along these lines are going to. So that's what I really needed to bring up. I really needed to bring up this two-portioned, two-subject part concerning the linkage. And I wanted to fit in the other one, the overseas problem. But that's pretty much it right now. Everybody stay safe. It's a fresh new week. It's a fresh new week with a month that's almost up, with the first month of spring already coming to an end as we go into go out into this season, heading on our way to the Easter season. Hope everybody had a good Palm Sunday. If you're Catholic, if you're not Catholic, I hope you had a good Sunday anyway. And I'm going to close off with a little bit of a joke. This guy dies and he goes into heaven and he speaks with one of the angels, and God says, would you like to have a look at the place around? And the guy says, yeah, sure. So he walks around. He says, check it out. Hey, who are those? Those are Muslims. Muslims are here? Yep, Muslims are here. They believe in God. They believe in doing good and all this good stuff. Who are them? Jews. Jews. Wow. And these people? Well, those are Christians, evangelicals, Baptists, and all them. And who's behind the wall? Oh, the wall? Those are Catholics that are behind the wall. And the guy was a little taken back, and he says, God, why are all those Catholics? Shh. The Catholics like to think that they're here all alone. Okay, and that was it. For the record, I am Catholic. I can take a joke. So I want you to have a good time. Stay safe. And, keep an eye out. Be vigilant. Be aware of your surroundings. And have fun. Enjoy yourself. Take care. Good luck should you actually see anything. Hope you report it on time. Hope you get to do something to, as a citizen. And stay safe, okay? We'll have you all later. This is Chris with Chris's Comments. Signing out. We'll see you next time.